Shalom, giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. I'm going to go into the book of Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, so that way we can gain understanding concerning this. It says, "And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." So now, in dealing with that portion right there, the blessing that was given to Abraham, it says, "In him and in his seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed." So let that be noted and understood. Now we can go and take this into a chronological world timeline thing in which different people had the children of Israel in their circumference. Let's start in what they call the Middle Kingdom of Egypt. Now that right there is starting off in what they call the situation where Amenemhat the first, who was the first king of the 12th dynasty of Egypt, that being a part of what they call the Middle Kingdom of Egypt. Some of the things that wound up happening during that era is to show you how Egypt was prosperous during that time, is because that's when they had the best literature. That's when they had some of their best monuments built. That's when they had some of their better pyramids built. You understand? So they actually also at that same time, under the king Senusret, which was 2 kings or so after Amenemhat, you had it to where they had what they call the expedition that they made into Kush, or that's to say into Ethiopia, and they actually conquered that particular place right there. You had it to where they was getting gold and diamonds and so forth and so on into what they call the expeditions into the Sinai. You also had it to where they made expeditions of what they also later on in history called the land of Palestine. So by the children of Israel being in the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, you see that's exactly when some of their best times was. And as the children of Israel were being led up out of the land of Egypt, you see also that's when some of their worst times began to happen. That's why those who know the history about Dynasty 13, which is also during the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, the people such as the Ipera Papyrus, where it states the people don't know what's going on. The land is filled with blood. Death is not lacking. Every man that's a firstborn is being buried into the ground. That right there just goes to show you that's some of the parts of what they call the Ipera Papyrus. It also speaks in there about what they refer to as the Kemnu Amnu, or the Asiatic slave that was escaping or leaving out of the land of Egypt. So that right there just goes to show you exactly what was going on. He's the same one who sat there and said, okay, boom, we're going to have it to where the tribe of Judah goes back and they build their temple. All of that is still confirmed within history. So they had 120 plus provinces from what you call the land of India all the way to what you call the land of Ethiopia of today. And that was the big dominion that the book of Daniel chapter 7 verse 5 speaks about when it says, and he shall devour flesh. That right there is talking about the Medes and the Persians that were ruling at that particular time. We'll get more into that in the future. Now, the Median Persian Empire, starting from 538 BCE and culminating and falling until the time when Darius III Commodus lost to Alexander in what they call the Battle of Gargamella in 331. Not to be confused with the Battle of Issus in 333. So now let's understand something else about the Median Persian Empire. Getting back into that, they also conquered some lands of what they call the Greek city-states in the year 480 and 470 AD. Pardon me, BCE. So that right there is very important to let it be noted, because that's what sometime after that, 100 and plus years after that, helped fuel that guy Alexander to where the book of Daniel chapter 8, it says the great horn was moved with choler against the Medes and the Persians. So when he went against the Medes and the Persians, in that particular one, he defeated them. And as to say, actually, Darius III was slain by his generals in their own particular kingdom. So Alexander had rulership basically of whatever the Medes and the Persians had. You understand? And there was no nation stepping up to him at that particular time. Like the Apocrypha says that all the kings of the earth bowed down unto him. Certainly the Egyptians did, because he actually was called a pharaoh in the land of Egypt. You see, but if you understand what happened after Alexander's death, and not to be arrogant, I challenge any historian, once it comes down to how they say Alexander died, he died at the hands of Cassander. How we know that? Because Cassander is the same one who assassinated Alexander IV, who was the son of Alexander. Okay, so logic will sit there and have to lead into that aspect. The next particular situation to talk about is you had it to where the main people after Alexander in relation to the Israelites or the tribe of Judah, that is to say the people of the Ptolemies and the people of the Seleucids. So this is how you get, once again, Antiochus, who's called what? The Great. How did he become great? By being in circumference with who? The children of Israel. That's why you read more about them in history and how great they were. Prior to that, you had the situation with the guy who they call Ptolemy I and Ptolemy II. This is now the era in which you get the Israelites that was shipped into the land of Egypt by Ptolemy, if we know and understand what's going on the first, or Ptolemy Soter, as he called himself. The time after that is when you get the writing of the Septuagint that was made by the Israelites by the orders, that is to say, of Ptolemy Philadelphus II. So that way he can have it for his own particular library. So that's how the Greeks became powerful, by having the Israelites in their circumference. So let that be noted and understood. The next thing that we're going to speak on concerning this kind of matter with the time frame is the people of the Romans. The Romans defeated the Greeks in what they call the Battle of Pydna, when Perseus of Greece lost to Rome in the year of 146 BCE. And Rome came to its greatest height. Why? And due to, in part, when who? The children of Israel was being subjected by them. So let that be noted and understood. In the year 63 BCE, Pompey of Rome subdued the tribe of Judah. And that's how the Romans, for a great part, Romans and the Israelites wound up being in circumference with each other. Pompey was a great emperor, and Abraham and his seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. So now, moving along, you have it from where the era of Pompey going all the way, we're skipping Domitian, we're skipping Trajan, we're skipping to Titus, we're skipping Vespasian, and so forth and so on, and we'll deal with that in another aspect. But all of those great emperors of Rome became great because they was in the circumference of who?
Genesis 10:6 refers to the Hamites as the sons of Ham, who inhabited North and Northeast Africa. The sons are Cush, which is present-day Ethiopia, Mizraim, present-day Egypt, Put, present-day Libya, and Canaan, which is present-day Palestine, Israel. The African presence is still visible in Israel today. There are thousands of African Palestinians who live in Israel with deep roots to the land, whose ancestors date back for centuries. I met with Ali Jaddah, tour guide, and the informal mayor of the African Palestinians in Old Jerusalem. I asked him about his life and relations between the Afro-Arabs and the Jews.
Well, life for him, I think it's the hell. I'm one of those people who had experienced that. To be Palestinian, that's a big problem. But to be a black Palestinian, I'm quite convinced it will be the hell. Because as a black Palestinian, I am double oppressed. Double oppressed by the Israelis.
In what way?
In what way? I will explain it. First of all, they oppress me as a Palestinian, you see. Secondly, they oppress me because of my color. Whenever I go around in the Israeli side, they call me Kushi. Kushi means nigger. Kushi means nigger.
So, in Israel, the land of God, people who are the brothers of the Arabs, two brothers, you are called nigger as I am called nigger in America?
Let's say on the surface, this is what they say, that this is the land of God and we are cousins and there should be total equality. But once you come to the practice, when you come on ground, you will find that there is a lot of discrimination and there is a real divorce between what they say and what they exercise.
Blacks and whites who watch the show saying, so why stay? Why stay when you are called nigger every day? Why stay when you are denied your rights?
On the contrary, the more they humiliate me, the more they oppress me, the more I stick to my land. Because this is my land. I'm so rooted. We are deeply rooted as Africans, as Palestinian Africans in this land. And we know pretty well that our ancestors, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of years, had been here in this country, but they were spread away, taken to Africa, from Africa to the United States. So the more they exercise brutality, the more they exercise oppression against me, the more we are determined to stay, because this is our homeland, and we have a message, we have a holy message, that this land should be the land of real peace, not the false peace that they are talking about it now.
As I did the interview, I couldn't help but be amazed at the dismal setting. We were in Old Jerusalem, in the city of walls, sitting in an old jail called Prison's Gate.
It had been built by the Mamluks. The Mamluks.
Which are?
They are Arabs, Muslims who came from Syria and occupied this area. We are talking about a period of 1358. About 600-700 years old, this place. Then afterwards, this place was taken by the Turks. When the Turkish Empire occupied the whole area over here. So those places were transferred to jails. Originally, those places were built for pilgrims, people who come from Mecca, outsiders. So the Mamluks wanted some places where they can stay, where they can serve them, give them food, and they have toilets, all these things. But once the Turks came over here, they transferred those places to prison. In the place you are sitting just now, they used to locate people who were sentenced to life, while in the other section, they used to locate people who were sentenced to death. Okay, I have a dream. I have a dream. It's not only me, all my people over here, that a day will come and we will have better conditions so that we can move from this prison, you see. But I think it's not only the name that gives it that definition, it's a prison.
And the name is?
In the meantime, I can say the whole area, the whole place that we are living is a prison, is a jail.
Not just this building?
No, not just this building. I'm talking about, in general, about the total situation. You can live in a very bombarded villa, apartment, outside, but you are still in jail because you are deprived of your freedom of expression. Try to imagine I'm living in a big villa a millionaire. I have a Pontiac, 1997. Once I go in the street, they call me nigger. So what does it mean? It's nothing. It's nothing in front of my self-dignity, my personal dignity, my human dignity. I think I can talk that we are living in a big jail.
135 AD, you had it to where the Roman Emperor Hadrian said, only y'all Israelites can come up into this land. And they changed the name of the land of Yisrael, and that is to say, namely the land of Yerushalayim or Jerusalem, into what they call Aliyah Capitolina. And they dedicated that place that Judah had unto Jupiter, which is one of the Roman gods. So that right there just let it be noted and understood what kind of thing was going on in that particular time. You understand? So now you had it to where the Israelites were being pushed further west by the Hamites and by the Ishmaelites. The Nabateans, who were the first children of Ishmael, was further and further going into Africa and pushing the children of Israel western. All right. So now what's going on then? You had the Hamites. That's to say the children that is indigenous to the continent that we call Africa today. And what happened? The Israelites being there and settling by 300 AD, you had kingdoms called the Ashanti, the Nufa, the Zegzeg, the Oyo, the Zad dynasty, the Mvombo, all of these different kingdoms that came up that you cannot predate until the time of the children of Israel scattering into Western Africa. When you go, brothers and sisters, in your own time, into the book Babylon and Timbuktu by Rudolf Windsor, he speaks about how the Israelites that was in Northern Africa that escaped out of the lands of the Assyrian Empire, that's another subject. And then the Israelites that scattered from the southern kingdom of Judah that wound up fleeing into what you call Western Africa, they formulated certain kingdoms. And some of those kingdoms that they formulated became as the names as we stated, the Za, Ashanti, Mandingo, Hausa, so forth and so on. Now, part concerning the issue with the Mandingo people, they also set off and established themselves in a place that we call Mauritania of today. These are some of the same people in the 8th century AD, mind you, after being converted to Islam, mind you, that's when the Muslims became powerful. That's when, at the same token, and Abraham and his seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, they was made to convert to Islam. So that's how the Muslims, as to say the Arabians, after what they was calling their quote-unquote their jihad, quote-unquote, when they went against the tribes of Israel that scattered into Africa. Go into Quran in chapter 17, verse 14 and 15 for a confirmation about that. That whole chapter is dedicated to the house of Israel. Quran, chapter 17, verse 14 and 15, and you'll see the reference where I'm coming from with that. Now, the next particular point to get into the next subject matter, brothers and sisters, is these people that came out of the Mandingo people from Mauritania in the 8th century AD wind up fleeing or by their own choice going through Morocco over the Strait of Gibraltar into Spain and trying to civilize, to use that word, the white man, the Spaniard. Please wash yourself. Lady, can you please cook the food? You should not eat that with the blood dripping out the side. So it was actually the people of the Moors that actually went over there into Spain and into France, as quiet as that is kept, and helped them civilize themselves. So after the Moors were expelled out of there, you see Spain and Europe going into what they call the Dark Ages. And after the Dark Ages, they come out in what they call the Renaissance. Renaissance is the Latin word meaning, or the Italian word meaning rebirth. You understand? And that was when they tried to take all the black images out and replace it with all European things to try to hide the fact that Europe had what they called, such as the bubonic plague, such as the droughts and everything like that, due to their own wickedness that the black man actually helped them be saved from. So now, in concluding this subject matter right here, the Western Hemisphere, having captured the children of Israel now in what we call the 14 and the 1500s, or the 15th and the 16th century, bringing us over here, that's when this society became great. So when America under Lincoln was saying, oh no, we need to sit there and have the slaves transported back to Africa, Parliament and Congress in America said, you're bugging. You cannot sit there and send them people back. We're going to have them go from the South and go up into the North and have them work in the industries. And so that's how America became great. So many black historians speak about how slavery helped America. And Abraham and his seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. So what Israel has to do is take that portion and do right by the Most High and be blessed in such. Shalom.